Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Madeline. As you can see from the title, I would like to join Booktube. You can see from the title, I will be starting a Booktube channel. I've always had a love for reading, and I would like to take my channel in a different direction and be able to share my love for reading on this channel. I won't be changing my whole niche and becoming a whole booktuber. I've always loved watching Booktube before. I have a lot of favorite booktubers on YouTube. It's one of my favorite videos to watch, and I just want to be able to make that content as well and join the community. In this video, I will be doing the Booktube Newbie Tag. I will be sharing my 2022 reading stats, and I will be talking about my 2023 TBR and my reading goals for this year. To start off with the Booktube Newbie Tag, I have a set of few questions that I can ask, like Q&A style. First question is, why do you want to join Booktube? I've always loved reading, always found myself reading on my free time. I wanted to be able to share my love for reading with my channel. That's something I can be consistent with and be able to post some content about. What are you most excited about this channel? Starting something new this year, starting something fresh. I feel like I've always trying to figure out how to start my niche, but as I grow with my channel, as I create more content, I feel like I just want to create content what I love and what I love to watch, and hopefully whoever watches it will enjoy it too. Why do you love reading? I love stories. I feel like it's escape from reality. I'm a pretty nosy person, but I don't want to experience like the drama for myself or just learning about different worlds. It's just a magical place to just dive into, and I feel like it's really exciting to just pick up a good book and just read it. What series got you into reading? Let me see if I have the book. I've always read before, but not too seriously, just here and there. The series that got me into reading was Twilight. The Twilight movie came out on Netflix one year. I loved the movie. I was just kind of obsessed with it, so I'm a Twihard. After I finished the movie and I was just like, I realized that there was a book to it. This is the first book I bought myself with my own money. I bought Twilight. This is recently, a few years ago, because it has the Life and Death edition, which is like a retelling where they swap the gender. So like Edward is a girl and Bella's a boy. I forgot, it's like Edith and Boo. It was a weird story, but this is just like a really, Twilight's just like a really comfort story. I always love to reread it every year. This has definitely sparked my interest in reading, and I've been just trying to get more into reading and just trying to read more stories, read more genres. Who are your favorite booktubers? My favorite booktubers to watch is Emma Book, Jessie the Reader, Poland Banana Books, Niall Reads and Smiles, and Natasha, so much more. I always find myself watching like almost all the booktubers. I just love their personality, love to watch their videos. I love their community, and I just want to be a part of that. When did you start reading? I began reading in 2016, which was my freshman year of high school. I started reading on my commute to school because I went to a charter school, so it was like a 30-minute commute, so I was able to read a bunch of books that year during my downtime, and now it's like carried on for like during college. Next question is, where do I read? I read during my commute school. So my commute is about an hour on the train. That's the time where I get a lot of free time, so a lot of times I am reading a book. I listen to audiobooks at work, and I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I get very hyper and I need something to get my mind during my shift, so a lot of times I'm reading at work to pass time. And that goes into the next question, is what is my reading style? To be able to balance college and work and my personal life, I have to find a way to read. Can't really like pick up a book. I get distracted easily. I'm not going to really focus. So what I've started doing is I listen to audiobooks when I'm like being productive, when I'm getting ready or being at work or commuting to school. I'll listen to an audiobook, and if I have the time, I'll read along with the audiobook because I love the way those authors narrate and animate the stories. Audiobooks really change the way you listen to books, and I enjoy it. I read with Libby. Libby is a digital library that you can always rent out books, read and return it. You can put the book on the Kindle app. I read on my iPad or my phone. I always read digital books. I don't really buy a lot of books because I'm trying to save money. I have a few books on my bookshelf, but not too many where it's a lot. What kind of books do I like to read? So my favorite books, I would say, are YA books, young adult books. I really enjoy reading contemporary books. I've been really getting into fantasy and dystopian books more, and fantasy are my favorite genres as of right now. Next question is, what are my reading goals of 2023? So my reading goals for 2023, I want to read 5 more books than I read last year. I want to read 15 books. I know that I probably will read more books this year. I just want to have that as my starting goal, and once I complete that challenge before the year, I'll add 5 more books, and I just want to see how many books I can actually read in a year if I'm consistent, which I want to be able to use this channel to help me become consistent. Into my reading stats of 2022, I read a total of 9 books this year. I was going through a lot with balancing work, personal life, college at the same time. I hope to be able to prioritize reading more, and if I'm looking down, I'm reading my Goodreads account on my iPad. You guys can follow me. I'll put the link in the description below. I read a total of 3,696 pages. The shortest book I read this year was Homebody by Rupa Kaur, which was 192 pages. The longest book I read was Winter by Marissa Meyer, which was 132 pages. The average book length in 2022 that I read was 409 pages. The most shelf book I read last year was Hunger Games by Susan Collins, and the least shelf book I read last year was Breathless by Jennifer Naveen. My average rating for 2022 was a 4.6. The highest rated book on Goodreads that I read was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. My first review of 2022 was Ferris by Marissa Myers, and this is the 3.5 book in the Lunar Chronicles series. It's a retelling of the evil stepmother in Snow White, and it's about her story and how she came about, how she grew up to where she is now, and I said Lavana's a bitch and I love it. So let's talk about the books I read for 2022. The first book I read was City of Bones, which is the first book of the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, and I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Breathless by Jennifer Naveen, 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Ferris by Marissa Myers, and I rated that 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Hunger Games by Susan Collins, which is the first book in the Hunger Games series, and I rated that 5 out of 5 stars. I've seen the movie, so being able to read that for the first time was really fun. The next book I read was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, which is the second book of the Harry Potter series, and I read this book as a child. I watched all the movies and I'm rereading the series. The next book I read was Homebody by Rupa Kaur. This is her 3rd book of her poetry book. She's the author of Milk and Honey. I think this is my favorite book of her poetry books. It just really was a very emotional book, but I feel like it did recognize like woman empowerment and a lot of things that women go through in society, so I really think that she really opened up about a lot of things in the book. The next book I read was Winter, which is the 4th book of the Lunar Chronicles story. This is a retelling of the Princess Snow White. The next book I read was Catching Fire by Susan Collins, and this is the 2nd book of the Hunger Games. The last book I read in 2022 was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and that is the 3rd book of the Harry Potter series, and I rated that 5.5 stars. My TBR for the beginning of 2022, I'm going to break it up by seasons. The winter time I want to read 10 books. First book is The Vile Village, which is the 7th book in the series of unfortunate events. There are about 13 books, so I am halfway through the series. I don't like to read series like back to back to back. I like to read a book and then come back to it, read another series. So I'm gonna just read a bunch of series this year and see how many I can get to. The next book on my TBR list is Looking for Alaska by John Green. There's a TV show for this. I think this one runs on Hulu, because I am the type of person that if I don't watch like the film, I won't understand what's going on, and I wanted to read the book first. The book is probably better. If they don't have a movie or a TV show to the book, I'll just suck it up and read it. Especially like for fantasy and the City of Bones, they have like the movie for the first book but not for the 2nd book. It was translated to a TV show, which wasn't that really good. I mean, I just sucked it up and read City of Ashes. I wish that there was another movie to it. We're gonna read it anyway. 3rd book on my TBR list is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games. It's like the history of what happened to Panem before the actual Hunger Games events happened. and I don't think the characters are in it, but it's a great way to understand the history of what happened during the story, and I feel like this is really interesting for it to know about. The Book Thief by Marcus Saxey. I don't go into books knowing too much about what's going on, but I know this is about during a Nazi Germany. It'd be interesting for me to read. I don't know too much about it. The Awakening by L.J. Smith, which is the first book of the Vampire Diaries. I watched the Vampire Diaries. I realized that there was a book to it, so I want to read it. I watched Vampire Diaries twice. I watched the original twice, and I'm currently watching Legacies on Netflix. So the next book I want to reread actually, is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which is the 4th book of the Harry Potter series. The next book I want to read is City of Glass, which is the 3rd book of the Mortal Instruments series. Next, I want to reread Shatter Me, which was one of my favorite books that I read. I think I read it in 2021, and it's about a girl who her power is lethal. Tara Mafi's writing style is really interesting, where she takes a phrase that she might be thinking in her head, well, the character in her head, and she'll like cross it out to like second guess herself or to contradict what she says, and to turn it into what other people want her to believe in. And it's really great. I love the romance in this book. I love the characters, the plot, everything about it, and I think this was my favorite books that I've read recently, and I just want to reread it again and just continue with the series. Insurgent by Veronica Roof, which is the 2nd book of the Divergent series. Divergent was one of my recent reads that I read this year. I just finished in like 2 days. It was really good. Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. It is one of the authors who wrote Founding Audrey, which is also current read that I'm reading right now, and I hope to talk about that in the next video. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for joining and clicking on this video. I'm excited to see how my reading journey goes on this year, and I hope to make reading videos and just share my love for reading on this channel. Thank you for watching. I love y'all. Bye.